Thanks for joining us on the program. I'm Joke Rogers. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. King Charles III and Queen Camilla arrive in Washington ahead of U.S. Congress address. Afghanistan accuses Pakistan of war crimes after 7 killed in missile strikes. Plus, top UK Prime Minister aide gives evidence on Mandelson Rao as Prime Minister Starmer faces key vote. Let's begin the world today. We begin with the royal visit to the United States as King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Washington for a 4-day visit. Beginning with a warm welcome from President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump at the White House. King Charles III is set to deliver a landmark address to the U.S. Congress later today, where he's expected to open with a message of sympathy following the recent attack in Washington. The King will stress that despite current tensions, the United Kingdom and the United States have always found ways to stand together in times of crisis. His speech is expected to call for reconciliation and renewal of the transatlantic alliance, urging both nations to defend shared democratic values of liberty, tolerance, and equality. Meanwhile, White House dinner shooting suspect Cole Allen has been charged with attempted assassination of U.S. President Donald Trump after storming the gala event with weapons on Saturday night. Cole was also charged with 2 firearms offenses when he appeared in court in Washington, D.C. on Monday. However, he did not enter a plea. Prosecutors say he was carrying a semi-automatic handgun, a pump-action shotgun, and 3 knives as he charged past a security checkpoint at the White House. Reports say a Secret Service agent was shot in the attack but not seriously wounded due to his bulletproof vest. The accused faces life in prison if found guilty. Meanwhile, a mother of a student at the C2 Education Tutoring Center where the alleged Trump dinner shooter Cole Allen worked describes him as a shy and socially detached person. For the mother, whose 11-year-old daughter had been tutored by Allen for 7 months, the news about the shooting was shocking as she avoided alarming her child, only asking if her daughter recognized him and get a confirmation that he had indeed been her tutor.
Just very shy, very quiet, I'd come across him in the hallway, wouldn't look at you, he wouldn't interact, he'd come out and sit here and have lunch, and that's about it. Never hi or bye, nothing, like never made eye contact. But yeah, it was just, whenever I would see him, he would just be sitting quietly. Well, it's just shocking, like I said, it was very shocking just because at the time when I saw the picture and I recognized him, I didn't realize that he had tutored her because we always just dealt, as parents, we dealt with their manager, never with the tutor, like one-on-one. Didn't really ask her, I just wanted to, because I didn't want to really bring anything, to her attention about it. So I just asked her if she recognized him and if he had tutored her, and she said he had.
And now to the Middle East conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced that Moscow would do everything it can to help secure peace in the region. He made this statement during a meeting in St. Petersburg with Iran's top diplomat Abbas Araghchi. On his part, Iran's foreign minister blamed Washington for the failure of talks on brokering a deal to end the fighting, with a ceasefire between the sides still holding. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged countries to keep promises under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty without caveats and conditions. The UN chief made the statement during the 11th NPT Review Conference in New York. He adds that the treaty is not a relic of a former age, frozen in amber. It must grapple with the nexus between nuclear weapons and new technologies.
Global military spending soared to 2.7 trillion US dollars last year, 13 times more than all development aid globally and equivalent to the entire gross domestic product of Africa. For the first time in decades, the number of nuclear warheads is on the rise. Nuclear testing is back on the table, and some governments are openly mulling the acquisition of these horrific weapons. Have we forgotten that a nuclear war cannot be won and must not be fought? Have we forgotten that nuclear weapons make no one safer? Have we forgotten that the only reason the world did not tumble into the abyss was because leaders stood together and said, enough? As you begin your deliberations today, I urge you to focus on two key points. First, countries must keep their promises under the treaty, without caveats, without conditions, without delays, without excuses. It's time to recommit to disarmament and non-proliferation as the only true path to peace. The treaty is not a relic of a former age frozen in amber. It must grapple with the nexus between nuclear weapons and new technologies. It must ensure that until nuclear weapons are eliminated, humanity never cedes control over their use. And it must help expand access to the benefits of nuclear science and technology for sustainable development.
A Russian-linked super yacht has made a rare and daring passage through the Strait of Hormuz despite an ongoing military blockade. The luxury vessel named Nord, tied to billionaire Alexei Mordashov, sailed from Dubai to Muscat, becoming one of the few private ships to cross the strategic route in recent months. The move comes amid rising tensions between Iran and the United States, with global oil supplies and shipping routes hanging in the balance. Meanwhile, Iran has accused the United States of piracy and terrorism over rising tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. Speaking at the United Nations Security Council, Iran's envoy Amir Saeed Iravani defended Tehran's actions, insisting that they are lawful and aimed at protecting maritime security. But Qatar pushed back, warning that any disruption to global shipping lanes threatens international peace.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, Mr. President, since 28 February, the United States and the Israeli regime have waged an unwarranted large-scale war of aggression against Iran in flagrant violation of international law and the United Nations Charter, particularly Article 2, disrupting maritime security and freedom of navigation and threatening regional and international peace and security. The Strait of Hormuz has been increasingly utilized to support military attacks in the region, including the transfer of military equipment intended for hostile action against Iran. This militarization has exposed international shipping to heightened and unprecedented risk of Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. In the meantime, the United States has continued its internationally wrongful act by imposing maritime blockade, unlawfully seizing Iranian commercial vessels and detaining their crews. These dangerous escalating measures violate international law, breach the UN Charter, constitute the crime of piracy and amount of act of aggression as defined in Article 3 of the General Assembly Resolution 3314. Mr. President, as the principal coastal states which the Strait of Hormuz lies within its territorial seas, Iran has taken necessary and practical measures consistent with international law to address emerging threats for safe and secure navigation, maintain the continuous passage of vessels, and prevent misuse of this vital waterway for hostile or military purposes. These measures are grounded in Iran's right and obligation under the law of the sea and its national laws and regulations, with a view to striking an appropriate balance between the security interests and the coastal states and the continued safe conduct of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz in a highly volatile environment. It is not bound by its treaty-based provisions, except to extend the specific rules reflected therein and universally recognized as customary international law.
Afghanistan has accused Pakistan of war crimes following a missile strike that killed 7 people and injured at least 85 others. Afghan officials have condemned the attack, stating that students and professors were among the injured at Syed Jamaluddin Afghani University, which sustained extensive damage. However, Pakistan has denied targeting the university, calling Afghan claims frivolous and fake, and asserting its strikes are precise and intelligence-based. The incident marks the first major outbreak of violence since Chinese-mediated peace talks earlier this month, reigniting a border conflict that has claimed hundreds of lives. Now to political matters in the United Kingdom. Former Foreign Office top diplomat Sir Philip Barton has revealed that Prime Minister Keir Starmer's team told his side to get on with it over security vetting for the disgraced former U.S. Ambassador Lord Mandelson, claiming the Prime Minister was aware of the risks in appointing the Epstein-linked peer. It comes as Mr. Starmer himself is under pressure to quit over his appointment and claims his office put huge pressure on the Foreign Office, which he denies. In his testimony before the Foreign Affairs Select Committee of MPs, Sir Barton said he would dodge a question on whether he backed the PM's view that due process was indeed followed.
The Prime Minister was deciding to make a political appointment. I think it is also reasonable that civil servants would not be directly involved in discussions around what is a political appointment, because in the end that is a matter for elected politicians, and I can also see the sensitivity. So I'm a bit conflicted. I mean, clearly, I think ideally you want to have a situation where there is a tight and small circle of people who can be consulted on a big decision like this on a basis of trust. But I can also see that in the end it was a political matter, and I suspect, I have no knowledge of this, was discussed in political circles at the top of the government. I was as I say, I was told of a decision, so I wasn't asked for advice. I was told a due diligence process had been carried out, and I think this is known now, as the Prime Minister had been made aware of the risks and had accepted those risks and decided to proceed. So I then moved on to a conversation, was asked for advice on the practical steps required to meet what was the Prime Minister's decision and then the requirement around the timescale. On that, later that week, as we were taking forward the practical steps required, the Cabinet Office initially said that as Mandelson was, to use the technical phrase from the guidance, a fit and proper person as a member of the House of Lords, he did not require developed vetting. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought that was odd and insufficient.
Meanwhile, former NATO chief and author of the UK government's Strategic Defence Review, Lord George Robertson, claims the country's weaknesses on defence could be tempting Moscow into an attack. Speaking before lawmakers in Parliament, Lord George urges Britain to be conscious of the fact that in the domestic press in Russia, the United Kingdom have become the proxy for the Americans. Mr. Robertson had previously accused Mr. Keir Starmer's government of over-reliance on the United States and a corrosive complacency.
If the government is saying, as it seems to be saying, we will be ready, but not until 2035, Are we increasing the risk that Russia might say, well, we better get in early then?
Certainly be a temptation, I would have thought, if in the Kremlin to do it. I think we should be very conscious of the fact that in the domestic press in Russia, we, the United Kingdom, have become the proxy for the Americans. There is an almost near hysterical approach being taken about the UK, the Anglos, the English, as being the major opponents in the war in Ukraine. I think we should be very wary, therefore, about the way in which we are vulnerable in both our critical national infrastructure and in our military as well.
And still ahead on the program. Vietnam's Da Nang in high spirits with colorful kite festival welcoming Liberation Day tourism season. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're in Indonesia now, where at least 14 people have been killed and dozens injured after a devastating train collision at Bekasi Timur station. The crash happened when a long-distance cargo Argo Bromo train slammed into a stationary commuter train, trapping passengers inside mangled carriages. Witnesses described moments of panic, first fearing a collision ahead, then being struck from behind in a sudden violent impact. Authorities say the accident was triggered after a train broke down at a crossing, forcing others to stop before the deadly chain reaction. Let's check in on the weather. A powerful tornado has tore through parts of Dallas and surrounding areas in North Texas, leaving at least 2 people killed, several injured, and dozens of homes and buildings destroyed. Local media reports that emergency rescue teams are on a search and rescue operation for missing residents as severe weather warnings escalate across the region. In the meantime, authorities have urged residents to stay away from heavily damaged zones as cleanup efforts continue. Ranking member of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel and widely tipped to succeed former leader El Mencho Odias Flores Silva, also known as El Jardinero, have been captured in Nayarit and transported by air under heavy security measures to the Mexico City International Airport. Officials say the operation was carried out by Naval Special Forces in a coordinated effort to capture high-value targets and was completed without violence. According to information from the Security Cabinet, El Jardinero is also wanted by U.S. authorities, who have issued an extradition request for him due to alleged links to international drug trafficking and other crimes. He is also believed to be a key leader within the powerful Jalisco New Generation Cartel and is suspected of involvement in major drug trafficking operations. However, the arrest has reportedly triggered a series of violent reactions in different areas of Nayarit, where roadblocks and the burning of businesses and vehicles were reported after news of his capture emerged. And finally on the program,